Good morning, guys. It is amazing to see you today. I hope that you had the most incredible night last night at home and that you were ready for another fantastic day and a fantastic video with your teacher. If you'll remember, yesterday we spent a lot of time talking about setting. Can you say that word with me? I'll say it, then you say it. Setting. Setting. Setting, remember, is where things happen. You say that last part with me. Where things happen. We talked about settings in two different books. We took a look at the setting for a pocket for corduroy, and we drew it right up here. We saw that that book happened in the laundromat with washing machines and dryers and clothes hampers. The setting of that book is the laundromat. We also read the book Froggy Gets Dressed, and we talked about how the setting of that book was two different places. One setting was inside Froggy's house, and the other setting was where? Outside. In the snow. This book has two settings. It happens in two different places. This morning for our video, before we read another story and do some gross motor time, I want you to think about where was the setting of your night last night? Where did you spend your time? Where did your night happen? Was it at home? Was it at Grandma and Grandpa's house? Was it someplace with your brothers and sisters? Did you go for a walk? It's up to you. You tell me. Where was the setting of your night last night? Close your eyes and let's think together. Think for a little bit longer. A little bit. Open your eyes. Where was the setting of your night last night? You can have more than one. I had two different settings to my night last night. One setting of my night was here in my apartment. That's one place that my night happened. The other setting was outside my apartment when I took a walk last night. I needed some fresh air, I needed to move my legs and get some activity pumping, so I had two settings to my night last night. One setting was in my apartment, and the other setting was outside. That's where my night happened. I'm so glad that you guys had cool and fun settings for your night last night. Today we're going to read another book and we're going to talk about the setting of that story, friends. But first, let's do some gross motor activities so we can get some of those wiggles out. I'm going to slide the camera back while you go and find a spot where you can dance with me, all right? Find a spot where there's plenty of space, where you're not going to knock into anything, and I will set you up right here and start our song for today. Slide this book over so I don't trip on it.
Twist your right hand, twist, twist, twist your right hand, twist, twist, twist your left hand, twist, twist, twist your left hand, twist, twist, turn around, shake it down, and twist, 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 twist your right foot, twist, twist, twist your right foot, twist, twist, twist your left foot, twist, twist, twist your left foot, twist, twist, turn around, shake it down, and twist, 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 twist. Now dance to the music, dance, dance, dance to the music, dance, dance. Do three hops, hop, hop, hop. Do three hops, hop, hop, hop. Dance to the music, dance, dance, dance to the music, dance, dance. Now everybody stop. Everybody drop.
Back up again.
Twist your right hand, twist everybody drop.
One more time.
Dance to the music. Dance, dance, dance to the music. Dance, dance. Now do 3 hops. 1, 2, 3. Do 3 hops. 1, 2, 3. Dance to the music. Dance, dance, dance to the music. Dance, dance. Now everybody stop. Now everybody drop.
All the way down. Oh, all the way down to the floor. What a fun song is that, my friends. And you know what the cool part of that song is? Is that it helps us learn the difference between our left and our right. Everybody raise your left hand. Everybody raise your right hand. This song helps us dance and do some gross motor time, but it also helps us learn the difference between our left and our right. I'm going to bring the camera right back this way, my friends. You go and find a spot where you can sit, and we'll do some deep breathing together. I'm just going to do brand new, normal deep breaths today. Ready? Let's do 5. Number 1, breathe in. Breathe out. Number 2, breathe in. Breathe out. Number 3, breathe in. Breathe out. Number 4, breathe in. Breathe out. And number 5, breathe in. Breathe out. Amazing, my friends. Now that we are all calmed down, are we ready to read our story for today? That's right. You know that we've been talking about setting, where things happen. As we read today's story, which is called The Napping House, I want you to think, where does this story happen? What is the setting of this story? Keep that in your mind as we read. The Napping House, written by Audrey Wood and illustrated by Don Wood. Since they have the same last name, they're probably in the same family. I bet they're married together. The Napping House. The Napping House. There is a house, a napping house, where everyone is sleeping. I'm getting a hint, my friends. Is this a place in the story? Do you think the story might happen in the napping house? I know that the title is The Napping House. So if the title is The Napping House, and the title tells us what the story is about, maybe the setting of our story is... We'll have to see. There is a house, a napping house, where everyone is sleeping. And in that house, there is a bed, a cozy bed, in a napping house, where everyone is sleeping. Who's in the bed? Do you think she'll be the only person in the bed? We'll have to wait and see. And on that bed there is a granny, a snoring granny, on a cozy bed in a napping house where everyone is sleeping. And on that granny there is a child, a dreaming child, on a snoring granny on a cozy bed in a napping house where everyone is sleeping. And on that child, there is a dog, a dozing dog on a dreaming child on a snoring granny in a napping house where everyone is sleeping. Who do we see here? So who's going to come next? And on that dog, there is the cat. A snoozing cat, on a dozing dog, on a dreaming child, on a snoring granny, on a cozy bed in a napping house where everyone is sleeping. Who do you think comes next, my friends? Who do we see? Who's our tiny friend right here? And on that cat, there is a super teeny tiny. Oh, can you even see it? Is the camera focusing? Let me click really quick to see if that helps. A super teeny tiny mouse. On that cat, there is a mouse, a slumbering mouse. On a snoozing cat, on a dozing dog, on a dreaming child, on a snoring granny, on a cozy bed, in a napping house where everyone is sleeping. Who comes next is even tinier. You see a little black dot right here? It's a bug called a flea. And on that mouse, there is a flea. Do you see where the black dot went? On that mouse, there is a flea. A wakeful flea. Can it be? A wakeful flea on a slumbering mouse, on a snoozing cat, on a dozing dog, on a dreaming child, on a snoring granny, on a cozy bed in a napping house where everyone is sleeping? A wakeful flea who bites the mouse, ah! Who scares the cat, meow! Who claws the dog, who thumps the child, ah! Who comes next after the child? Who bumps the granny, who breaks the bed in the napping house where nobody is sleeping. They all woke up. The end. Thank you for the story. Thank you very much. Woohoo! I think that book is so much fun. There's a pattern in that book too. How all the different people stack up on top of each other on the bed. Kind of like our pattern that we have in our calendar. But we'll talk about that another day. Right now, I want to focus on this question. Where is the setting of this book? Where does this book happen? We get a hint early on. We get a special hint in the title. The title of this book is the same as the setting. Where does this book happen? Does it happen in space? Does it happen in the jungle? No. It happens in the house. The napping house. The setting of this book is the napping house. All the different people are asleep inside the napping house. And every single page, even when there are different people inside the bed, we see that they are still inside the house. Still inside the house. The setting of this book is the napping house. So let's add that to our settings board. I'm going to pull right up over here and bring it super close so you can see. We see our setting for Froggy. Now I'm going to make another square over here for the setting of the napping house. So we'll bring that over. I'll make my kind of lackluster square here. And I'm going to do my best to draw the picture of the house that we saw on the outside of the book. It's a little bit taller. It has more, what are these called? windows. It has more windows. So we'll label these. Oh, it's a pretty tall house. It's the napping house. I can even write that as a label next to it. Napping house. Perfect. I'll zoom in a little bit closer. The setting of this story is the napping house. That's where this book happens. Excellent job, my friends. You did such a good job figuring out the setting of that story with me. And tomorrow we're going to talk even more about different settings in a brand new book that we're going to read, which is one of my favorite books ever. For moms and dads, our take-home activity today is writing labels for things around the house. This could be little stickers, it could be pieces of paper, it could be just like little index cards or anything that you have left over. You can use tape if you want. You don't have to use tape. You can just set them next to things, but you can frame it as an investigation for your kids. So you tell your student that they need to find things inside the house to label, and they can pick labels for anything that they want. So as they go on the hunt, you can go with them and you can ask them, does this need a label? Does this need a label? And as you do that, you can re-explain to them, because Gabby and I have already talked to them about this, what a label is. How a label is something that we write next to an object that helps us remember what that object is. After they pick something that needs a label, you can bring it back with you and you can sit down with them on the piece of paper or whatever else you're using, and you can write with them the name of that object. So you ask them to tell you what it is, push them to use a really specific vocabulary word. So instead of just a toy, you could say a toy car, or a baby doll, or a Spider-Man toy, or something, you know, a phrase or a word that's really specific to that object. And hand over hand, you can write with them the label for that object, and you can tell them the different letters as you write it. You can also point out that we write from left to right, that we make sure that we use different letters in every word that we write, and you can do that with lots of different labels for different objects throughout the house. It's going to help them learn letters. It's going to help push them to use really specific vocabulary for different objects around the house and learn new words for different objects, and it's also going to help them practice writing from left to right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for watching. I really enjoyed doing this video today with you guys, and I will see you guys again tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day.